Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another video. It is another episode of Toffees Today, the show where we sit down and we go through all of the latest Everton news and rumours. Apologies for the lack of content over the last couple of days. The season review that we did on Thursday night, I believe it was, absolutely took it out of me. It was a over an hour long, deep, in-depth conversation about the entirety of last season, where it went wrong, where it went right, which wasn't very often, but it did go right at times. And as I said, it was a very in-depth look into what was another absolutely horrific season for Everton Football Club, and it took it out of me. So after that, I thought, you know what, I'm going to have a couple of days where I don't even think about Everton, and then we'll come back with a news roundup. And that is exactly what this is. We have had a lot of news over the course of the last sort of 7 or so days since I last done one of these videos anyway. Obviously, we've had a lot of transfer news. We are now well into what I like to call silly season, which is the period in the calendar year where the transfer window is open or is about to open. The season is over and Everton are linked with about 426 different players, of whom we will sign probably about 3 or 4 of them. I think I said in the last video, and I'm actually really interested in this, and I think I'm going to do it. I think at the end of the transfer window, when you know the deadline day is over and the window is officially closed, I think I'm going to look back at exactly how many players Everton were linked with over the course of that transfer window, and how many of those players Everton signed, because we're going to talk about a number of names in this video, and most of them aren't even worth a 1-2 minute conversation, because most of them Everton simply are not going to sign, and it's quite obvious that Everton aren't going to sign them. They've just been linked with a move to Everton because, as I said, we're in silly season, and journalists and agents and all of these different people that work around football have got to find a story to put out, and more often than not, they find a silly little minuscule link and they put it out there, and it links Everton with, you know, X, Y, or Z, and the reality is we all know X, Y, or Z ain't coming to Everton this summer, but we'll talk about them for the sake of the video and for the sake of the discussion as to whether or not we would actually like those players at Everton. But anyway, we aren't just going to talk about players this video. We're also going to talk about Everton's retained list and some contractual information, as well as Everton revealing a couple of pre-season friendlies that they will be playing next month. So let's get straight into it. On Friday, we were informed that Everton have confirmed that they have offered new contracts to Andy Lonergan, Seamus Coleman and Tom Davies. Everton also confirmed that Yerry Mina and Andros Townsend will leave the club at the end of the month following their contracts expiring. I'm pretty sure we all knew that was coming anyway. Obviously, we knew about Yerry. He put the post up about it being his last game, and I think we were all quite, sure that Andros Townsend would be leaving as well, given he's obviously been injured all season, and you know his contract being renewed would have certainly been a conversation that would have sparked discussion. So yeah, I don't think that comes as a shock. We also obviously found out that Asmir Begovic was leaving Everton. We spoke about that in the last episode of Toffees Today. He actually rejected the contract from Everton in favour of wanting to leave the football club. Maybe he just wants a fresh challenge. Maybe he wants to go and pursue first team football. Maybe he's been offered a contract by a Premier League club to be their first team goalkeeper, and that obviously would be a much more attractive option than sitting on Everton's bench. He has been linked with the likes of Luton to potentially go in there and be their number one. We also found out that a number of youngsters had been offered new deals, including Ryan Ashley, Lewis Gibson, and Everton had taken up the option to extend Jack Barrett and Mackenzie Hunt's contract. A number of young players have also left Everton Football Club, including Isaac Price, of course, who was reported to have signed a pre-contract with Standard Liège earlier in the year, and that, of course, has now been confirmed. And Shay Cahill as well, who is Tim Cahill's son, has also left the football club. So let's get into the juicy bits of this, and I think the main topic of conversation surrounding this news is the the report or the news that Tom Davies has been offered a new contract at Everton. Every bit, everything else in that retained list, none of it was really a surprise. I mean, maybe some people were surprised that Asmir Begovic had rejected the new deal, but again, as I said, I personally think that he's probably thought, you know what, I could go and play first team football somewhere here, as opposed to sort of sitting on the bench for another year, and maybe that is his aspiration. Maybe he just wants to go out there and play more regularly. Again, as I said, the Andros Townsend news isn't particularly surprising either. Obviously, we wish Andros, Yeri and Asmir all the very best in their future, and I think Andros Townsend is one that is maybe gone under the radar a little bit. Obviously not the greatest time at the football club because of injuries, but when he was there and when he was fit, he always gave out 110%. He often put in some really good performances. I remember his goal against Burnley, which was an absolute worldie. I remember his goal against Manchester United at Old Trafford. He was unsung hero is certainly not the phrase I would use, but he was a player that I think was underappreciated when he was there. He was always a threat at goal, and there was always a possibility he could get on the end of one. And as I said, wish him the very, very best. Whether or not he will move on to another club or whether or not he will retire and go back to working on TalkSport and whatever else he was working before he joined Everton, I don't know, but wishing him the very, very best. But obviously, the Tom Davies situation has sparked a lot of discussion. It has sparked a lot of frustration amongst Evertonians, and it sparked a lot of confusion amongst Evertonians as well. Just to touch on the other two contracts that have been offered to first team players, Seamus Coleman, of course, is one that I think most Evertonians, 99.9% of Evertonians, would have wanted to have signed a new contract. Again, these are just contracts that have been offered. These aren't contracts that have been signed. So there's still a possibility that Tom Davies leaves Everton this summer. There's still a possibility that Seamus Coleman leaves Everton this summer, but they have been offered deals to remain at the football club. Seamus Coleman, as I said, good news. Absolutely no problem with that one. And I said it in the season review. It would have been absolutely devastating, I think, and I speak on behalf of, I think, all Evertonians when I say this, it would have been absolutely devastating to have seen Seamus Coleman's Everton career end with an injury and him going off on a stretcher, not knowing whether or not we were going to survive. So hopefully Seamus will sign that new deal, and hopefully, we will see him in an Everton shirt next season. In terms of Andy Lonergan, again, some people asking why, some people asking what's the point, some people asking will he ever get a game? Probably not, but we've just lost Asmir Begovic, and I dare say we will go out and bring in another goalkeeper this summer to obviously replace Asmir Begovic as the number 2. However, you lose 2 goalkeepers, then you've got to go and bring 2 goalkeepers in, and then that's when obviously you're using more finance, and Andy Lonergan's probably on £5,000 a week, so for the sake of that, he's probably never going to play. I understand the decision. In terms of the Tom Davies one, I'm not as frustrated with this as I think a lot of Evertonians are. Now, don't get me wrong, I fully understand the shouts of a lack of ambition, and the reality is Tom Davies just isn't good enough, and the reality is Tom Davies shouldn't get a new contract, he doesn't deserve a new contract. And whilst I think a lot of those points are valid points, I do think Tom gets a lot of stick. Not unnecessarily, because I don't think he's a fantastic footballer, and I don't think he's particularly shown anything to suggest he deserves praise in his last year or two at Everton Football Club. He obviously hasn't played an awful lot, but when he has played, I can't really remember off the top of my head a performance where I've gone, oh my God, what a great performance that was by Tom Davies. Certainly not in the last couple of years. However, I think we have to look at this in a very, 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 sort of factual and sensible, level-headed way, and not with the emotion of the situation. Now, is Tom Davies a good enough player to start for Everton Football Club week in, week out? No. Absolutely not, and that's why he doesn't start for Everton Football Club week in, week out. And a lot of people would argue Tom Davies isn't even a good enough player to be at Everton. He's not even a good enough player to be on the bench. He's not even a good enough player to be in and around the squad. And I would agree with that as well. I would agree with that. But what I would say is Everton are in a terrible, terrible, terrible situation financially this summer. We already know that we're being investigated for a potential breach of the financial fair play rules and laws, and that could come to a conclusion at some point in the next 12 months, and that may, be concluded with a fine or a transfer embargo or whatever it may be. We all know that even without that financial fair play investigation, we're still in a very poor position with our finances because, we haven't been able to spend. We didn't bring a single player in January, even though we sold Anthony Gordon for £40-odd million. We still didn't bring a single player in. There's already reports at the moment that Everton will be on a shoestring budget again this season. And for us to be able to buy big, we've almost got to sell big, which is where the reports of Amadou Onana and Jordan Pickford potentially leaving the club are coming in. And I look at it and think, Tom Davies, probably on £1 million a year, let's say, 1.5 million quid a year, max. What does that work out at? If you do, let's do £1.5 million a year divided by 52, 28 grand a week. It mightn't even be on that. Probably not even on that. I would say he's probably on about 15 grand a week. So less than £1.5 million a year. £1 million a year, let's say. Now, if Everton were to allow Tom Davies to leave, whilst it would, certainly send a positive message in the sense that the football club would be not accepting mediocrity, because Tom Davies is a very mediocre, average footballer. Is he the worst in the world? No, absolutely not. But he's a very mediocre, average footballer who probably isn't that bothered about being anything more than a mediocre, average footballer. But for a player that costs us £1 million a year, if we were to allow Tom Davies to leave Everton Football Club, we would have to replace Tom Davies, because our squad is already paper thin. We've just played the majority of a Premier League season fighting for our lives to stay in the league with 2 goalkeepers on the bench every week because we could not fill the bench. And I know some people will say, well, Tom Davies is blocking, X young players' path into the first team, or B, Y young players, like, Lewis Warrington, or maybe Isaac Price, which is now why he's wanted to leave. I get that. And would I have been opposed for Tom Davies leaving the football club and Everton not going out and buying a replacement, but instead, promoting Lewis Warrington to the first team, or maybe one of the other young lads to the first team? Not really, no, I wouldn't have minded that. But Sean Dyche will have watched a lot of those young players, and he will have watched Tom Davies for weeks and weeks and weeks and months. And he's obviously surmised that those young players just aren't ready to make that step up yet. And he trusts more in Tom Davies to be able to do a job if needed. So that means if we were to lose Tom Davies, we would almost certainly have to go and replace him, because it's clear the manager doesn't have that faith or trust in those young players. Or maybe he's got a different plan for those young players. Maybe we're going to loan Lewis Warrington out again. Maybe the club are thinking we're going to get a bid for a couple of £1 million for Lewis Warrington, or £1 million, and we're going to sell him because we need the finance. I don't know what the situation is with the young players, and I get people saying keeping Tom Davies on is blocking the path for young players. I get that. And if Everton were a solid Premier League side who just finished 9th and were looking to, push on to be a European, challenging team, and we had no threat of relegation, and we had, freedom with our finances to be able to go out and spend X, Y, and Z, I'd say, yeah, absolutely, promote one of the young players and allow Tom to leave. But in the position that we're in, with the financial situation that we're in, with the money that Tom Davies will cost Everton a year, and the fact that we would probably have to replace him if he was to leave, I'm not absolutely devastated by this. I understand it shows a lack of, maybe a lack of any real sort of, I don't know. I've completely lost me words. You know what I'm trying to say. A lack of, want to go out and improve and want to go out and be better. But maybe that's just the position that we're in, and if there's anybody that lacks that desire for Everton to be better and to improve, it's the people that are in charge of this football club. It's not Tom Davies. Whether Tom Davies stays or not, that's not his decision. And by the way, he hasn't signed the contract yet, so he might do what John Joe Kenny did. Let's not forget, John Joe Kenny was offered the contract last summer, and he turned around and said, no, you're all right, I'm going to go and play in Germany. And Tom Davies may do that as well, or he may sit there and just say, no, do you know what, I've got an easy life here, I'll take this money and I'll be happy with it. I don't know. But like I said, I appreciate that, this is a frustrating situation, and I appreciate that maybe this blocks the path for one or two young players, but if those young players aren't ready, then we would have to go out and buy a replacement for Tom Davies, and can we really afford that? Are we really in that position, given we've got another 4 or 5 positions that we need to fill as a matter of urgency? So, yeah. Again, I'm really interested in everybody's thoughts on it, because it does show a lack of ambition. That's the word I was looking for before. And, I understand people will be frustrated with that. But, ultimately, given the position that we're in, maybe the club are just looking and going, for the money it cost us to keep him on for a year, he's barely going to play. He barely has played for 2 years. We'd have to go out and replace him. We'll probably have to spend more. I don't know. I don't know. It's obviously a trust thing with the manager. The manager obviously trusts Tom Davies more than he does any of the young players. But yeah, interesting one. Let us know your thoughts. I know a lot of people are frustrated with this one and just simply don't understand it. I do understand it to a degree, but I also understand, those fans that are upset because of a lack of ambition. But as I said, if there's anybody at this football club that shows a complete lack of ambition, it's the people that are in charge that need to be moved on. I would rather see Bill Kenwright and Denise Barrett-Baxendale walk out the door than Tom Davies, I'll be honest. Anyway, Everton have confirmed that they will face League 2 side Tranmere Rovers at Prenton Park on Saturday the 22nd of July with a 2 p.m. kickoff. They have also confirmed that they will play Bolton Wanderers at the University of Bolton Stadium on Tuesday the 25th of July, 7:45 kickoff, and then Stoke City at the Bet365 Stadium on Saturday the 29th of July, 3 p.m. kickoff. So 3 pre-season games confirmed by the football club there. 3 away pre-season games, confirmed by the football club there. Tranmere, Bolton and Stoke. Obviously, all very local games. I'm going to try and get down to at least 1 or 2 of them myself. Again, not the US tour that we obviously saw last year, but maybe Sean Dyche is thinking, no, do you know what? I want to keep it local. I want to play some tough, hard to beat, EFL teams, local sides, so there's not the strain of travelling and jet lag and playing in 30-odd degree heat, and then maybe, we'll go to, I don't know, Austria or Switzerland or something for a week or so to play a couple of games there and just get a bit of warm weather, high altitude training. But again, I appreciate that this isn't the pre-season tour that we maybe would have wanted. There's a fan base to go abroad and watch Everton, but it is what it is. And as I said, it's good that Everton have at least confirmed these games, because the first one is a month and a bit away, so they needed to confirm them. So yeah, Tranmere Rovers away, Bolton away, and Stoke away, all within a week in July. Saturday the 22nd, we play Tranmere. Then, of course, the following Tuesday, it's Bolton. And then the following Saturday, it is Stoke. Everton have been linked with a number of players. I'm going to go through these fairly quickly because, there's been a load of them. Everton have been linked with Brennan Johnson from Nottingham Forest. Everton have also been linked with Moussa Dembele, who is a free agent, just left Lyon, or will be leaving Lyon. Michael Olunga is another player that has been initially discussed at Finch Farm. He's a 29-year-old who plays for Qatar side Al Duhail and has scored 40 goals this season. Everton apparently are amongst multiple teams interested in Batista Mendy of I don't know who he plays for. Sorry, I thought it said. He's available for £6 million. Val Veghorst is a name that has popped up a number of times over the course of the last week or so. And these are the ones that I genuinely pay more attention to. The players that come up 3, 4, 5 times rather than just the once. And Wout Weghorst is one of those. However, the latest on that we heard was from Sports Pete O'Rourke this morning, who said Everton are not interested in signing Burnley striker Wout Weghorst. The Blues do not want to sign a striker. The Blues do want to sign a striker this summer, but Weghorst does not feature on the shortlist. Everton have also been linked with Manchester United midfielder Scott McTominay, and that's according to The Athletic, who obviously are a very reliable source, but Newcastle are also interested in him, and 25-year-old striker Beto, who feels like he's been 25 for the last 7 years, because it feels like Everton have been linked with him for the last 7 years. Again, usually I'd go through each one of these names and I'd talk in depth about them, but the reality is, can I see Everton signing Scott McTominay from Manchester United? Potentially, if we're to lose Amadou Onana. I don't think Everton will sign Scott McTominay currently now, given we've still got Onana, Garner, James Garner, etc, etc. Can I see Everton signing Wout Weghorst? Potentially. Do I want him? No, but potentially. But again, latest report suggesting that isn't going to happen. And, the other names, Beto, again, just the typical new year, new transfer window, link Everton with a player they've been linked with before. Moussa Dembele is a good name because he's still relatively young. Well, he's not young, but 26 years old, not a bad age, free agent, striker, scores goals. Not great last season, but really good the season before, so maybe. But yeah, as I said, look, we are fully in silly season now, and that means that you are going to get a lot of links to a lot of players that ultimately Everton are not going to sign. We will know more when we start to see more solid links and players that are being linked within media in this country. That's the likes of The Athletic or Fabrizio Romano. That's when I think we'll start to perk our ears up and go, oh, okay, there might be more in this. But for now, it's just nonsense transfer rumours that probably won't amount to anything. The rumours that I am listening to, and reports I am listening to, is Paul Joyce reporting that Sean Dyche wants to sign a new left back for Everton this summer. Attacking options are also a priority this transfer window, while the club is wanting a new backup goalkeeper, as we've just mentioned, with Asmir Begovic leaving. That is an interesting one. Sky reporting that Fulham are interested in signing Damari Gray and have made an inquiry for the winger. Other clubs are also interested. It's not known whether Everton would be willing to sign Damari Gray. Sell Damari Gray. Name your price. Look, I seen an Everton fan say yesterday when this was reported, Damari Gray is one of our best forwards, and it is what it is, and he is. But that doesn't mean he's very good, and that doesn't mean that we shouldn't listen to offers. Now, obviously, the offer has to be relevant, and it has to be good enough for Everton to be able to go out and replace Damari Gray, because we would have to go out and replace Damari Gray. But, like I said, 10 million quid, I'd snatch your hand off for it. I really would snatch your hand off for it. That, again, I'm just plucking numbers out of the air. Fulham might go, no, 2 million quid, and that wouldn't really be worth Everton's time, because we probably wouldn't be able to replace him for £2 million. But I'm not opposed to selling Damari Gray if the price is right. I'm really not. But we'll wait and see how that one folds out. And then, according to TalkSport, Manchester United want a top goalkeeper to replace or rival David De Gea this coming season, and Jordan Pickford is the top of United's list. Everton may sell Jordan Pickford for £30 million. I cannot see that happening. I just cannot see a world in which Everton sell Jordan Pickford for around about the same amount that they bought him for, even though they bought him as a young up-and-coming goalkeeper, and he is now England's number one and one of the best goalkeepers in the world. He's won our Player of the Season 3 times in the last 6 years, and he's single-handedly kept Everton in the league for the last 2 seasons. Why would he be worth the same amount of money? Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. And I'm seeing some Manchester United fans who've got very big YouTube channels who are scoffing at the idea of Jordan Pickford. And listen, sound, I don't want Jordan to go nowhere, and I hope he doesn't go anywhere. But he's a much better goalkeeper than David De Gea, and it's as simple as that. And if you don't think so, then you probably should stop sitting in your room and go and watch a game of footy. But yeah, there you go. Listen, we spoke the other day about Jordan and the potential of Jordan leaving the football club. And look, Again, I don't want it to happen, and I don't think it should happen. But if Everton are to receive a big bid, I think it's fair to say we'd have to look at it, and we'd have to sit down and we'd have to discuss it. However, £30 million isn't a big bid. Double it and add 20, and then we'll have a conversation. But £30 million is nonsense. Anyway, we're going to leave it there. I think that's about it. As I've mentioned, we've been linked with about 15 different players, but probably none of them will sign. So we'll talk more in depth about those when we actually get some real hard sort of links that have got some truth in them and not just absolute nonsense. Let us know your thoughts on the Tom Davies situation and the Jordan Pickford situation as well. Really interested to hear those. Big thanks for watching. We will be back over the next couple of days with another one of these videos, so look out for that one. If you have enjoyed it, please do leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you later.